Hey beauties, welcome back to another episode of Beauty Within at Home. Today we have a very special guest with us, Desiree from Paula's Choice. She is the Senior Research Education Manager, and we were introduced to her as Paula's Choice right-hand woman. Desiree, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself a little?
Yes, hello Beauty Within family. So I have been with Paula's Choice since 2009. So I've been around the block with this company for a while, and let me tell you, it's been a fun ride. I've co-authored books with Paula, and then I also get to do this really cool thing where I travel the world and we talk about skincare and we talk about skin conditions and skin type and all of these, really key valuable things to getting your skin on the right track.
And we're honestly so excited because we did all meet at a pop-up in New York City, I think 1 year ago when the Omega Complex was coming out. That was super exciting, and we've actually been planning this interview with Desiree and Paula's Choice for a long time now. So what are we gonna cover today? 3 main things that I think you guys will be super excited about. It's what you guys always shower us with in terms of questions, and it has to do with acne and breakouts, hyperpigmentation, and anti-aging. We also will sprinkle your questions that we got from the community, right, Ro?
Yes, a lot of questions from you guys, as always.
Desiree, you can just speak about how many products there are and just how easy it is to get confused with the range that Paula's Choice offers, right?
Oh my gosh, we have so many products, over 100 products. And the thing is with our line is we know that skin is not one size fits all. You can have acne but have dry skin. You can have wrinkles but be really oily. So you need products that are really tailored and customized to your needs, which is why we have so many options.
And honestly, Paula's Choice, you can tell through the archives of all our videos, we love to death because it's so approachable. In your Instagram, you say beauty is the truth.
Beauty begins with truth. There you go.
Yes. So let's get into it. So let's jump into the first because, foundation is always the most important, setting and understanding our skin, what we're starting with.
This is right. And the reason it's so crucial is, once you know your skin type, you can pick the consistencies, the textures that are going to work best with your skin. To a certain degree, there's also ingredient decisions to be made there, but really the basis is about getting the right texture because, for somebody with, say, oily or breakout prone skin, you're going to need more fluid or liquid base or gels or lightweight serum type of textures so that your pores don't get clogged, so that your skin doesn't look extra greasy on top of the shininess that it already has. So a lot of it really just comes down to texture.
Desiree, can you give us some pointers as to what are some basic go-to ways you can figure out what your skin type is?
So a really easy way to do it is wash your face, with a gentle cleanser. Don't be using anything that's really strong or stripping, and then just wait 30 minutes. And you need to give it enough time to really see what develops over that amount of time. And at the end of the 30 minutes, look and see what your skin is looking like and feeling like. So if your skin starts to have oil diffused kind of all over, pretty easy to pinpoint that you've got oily skin. If your skin feels more dry or tight, uncomfortable, then classically dry skin is most likely what you have. You can also have a combination of those things. So you might be oily in the T-zone, but then drier on the cheeks or just more normal on the cheeks. So that can kind of be your combo skin. And then there's the tricky one, which is dehydrated skin. So dehydrated skin, this one is the one that trips people up because they might have some oiliness on the surface, but their skin feels parched underneath. And what could be happening is they might be using products that are irritating their skin. Things like high amounts of SD or denatured alcohol. If you see those in the first 5 ingredients of your skincare product, first of all, it's just bad for your skin, period. But second of all, it could be causing the dehydration that you're seeing because alcohol is drying, but it also triggers an inflammation response that makes your skin produce more oil. So you've got this weird juxtaposition of these conditions going on your skin that's leading you to feel dehydrated even though you're actually still oily on top.
Think if Rowena doesn't put something on her skin straight after washing, it'll literally crack.
It's within the second after I shower, the second after I wash my face, I need to put something on instantly.
I And that's why I love toners, because toners are instantly replenishing skin right after cleansing. And it doesn't matter if you have oily skin or dry skin. I think everybody needs a toner.
Just to clarify for people, can you explain the difference between a skin type and skin condition?
So skin type, I think of as like the canvas of a painting. So it's kind of like your base layer. And then skin conditions are all the details that go into that. So, you know, your skin type might be dry, and your skin condition might be that you're prone to rosacea. It might be that you're prone to milia, which are those little tiny white dots people get around their eyes. There are all different types of skin conditions that can go with your skin type, but think of the skin type as really kind of like that base layer.
So because we have skin all over our bodies, what you see on your face, is that like a good reflection of how you can also analyze what skin type you have? Like you'll have an oily scalp, an oily body, and what you see on the skin will reflect everywhere else. And how does that work?
You know, it's really such an individual thing. So everybody's skin can differ. And, you know, for me, I have very oily skin on the face, but that doesn't reflect on the rest of my body. In fact, my legs are very dry. So it might be an indicator for some people, but not necessarily for everyone.
I'm trying to imagine an oily body. I'm like, what would that be like?
It's like you're just sliding around.
I think it's just well moisturized. Maybe the opposite of dry is just you're not as dry.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've laid the foundation, let's go into step 2, which is then trying to decide what we want to target, because we have, you know, as you were saying, the canvas is painted with a lot of different things. So how would you go about deciding, you know, with every product out there, how should people go about it?
I would say it's up to what you're personally comfortable with, and also, you know, what are the things that annoy you the most. So for me, I've always had this breakout prone skin, so breakouts are probably always going to be my primary concern. And then in terms of other things, you know, I have wrinkles and enlarged pores, so I factored those in as well. It's really up to what's bothering you and kind of how far and how detailed you want to go with your routine. But I do think it's helpful to pick your primary concern and then build everything else around that.
Awesome. So let's jump into one of the main ones that we see a lot of people struggle with, and that's acne and breakouts. And I think there's just like perpetual confusion as to why, because it does kind of span across all skin types as well, right?
Right. And there's so many different factors that can trigger it. You know, a lot of it is hormonal or genetic, but it could just be that you have so much built up dead skin that your pores are getting clogged and the bacteria in there is manifesting itself on the oil that's in your pore. Also, diet can play a role. Stress breakouts can play a role. If you're already prone to acne, it can get worse during these stressful times. So there's no one simple answer. I wish there were, but there's a lot of things going on when it comes to acne.
So let's go into some ingredients that you think, like through your community on, you know, Paula's Choice, what people ask you, your personal experience, what are the best ingredients that people can look for?
So this is pretty easy because it doesn't matter whether you have teen acne or adult acne. The gold standard is a good cleanser. And we're talking gentle, we're talking fragrance free, and then beta hydroxy acid, which is also known as salicylic acid. They're the same exact thing. And that is going to be what goes in, unclogs the pore. It also has an anti-inflammatory action that helps with breakouts. And then the third step is benzoyl peroxide. And benzoyl peroxide is what you can think of as like the acne killing, the bacteria killing treatment. A lot of people use benzoyl peroxide as just a spot treatment over the pimples they see now, but that's a mistake. You need to be using it on a consistent basis to keep them at bay in the first place, and that'll do so much better for your skin. However, I will say that not everybody's skin can tolerate benzoyl peroxide. There are a lot of people where it causes, you know, redness or dryness. So if that's you, an alternative ingredient that's really great is azelaic acid. And that's one I personally love, one I personally use. It does help with blemishes. It does help reduce them. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It has anti-redness properties.
Felicia's face is just lighting up throughout this whole section.
No, you have no idea because you are talking my language. Like, my holy grail product is these 3 products that we mentioned to death. It's the 2% BHA Liquid Exfoliant with the salicylic, but you also have the BHA 9% salicylic acid and the 10% Azelaic. Like, all of these are favorite. There's a lot of questions because this is a cult favorite. How would you say we should be layering this and using it?
So we always say cleanse, tone, and then exfoliate. If you were to apply your exfoliant before your toner, that's that's also fine. It's not gonna deactivate one over the other, and you don't have to wait in between applying them either. You can just move right on to your next step. So it's really pretty simple. With that 2% BHA liquid, you can either put it on a cotton pad, you can pour it in the palms of your hand and kind of rub it over your face. If for whatever reason that seemed like it was too much for your skin to handle, you could really just focus it more on the areas that you tend to need it, which would most likely be that T-zone area. But I say if you can use it all over, do it, because you're getting that surface layer exfoliation as well as the pore exfoliation, and that's just gonna help everything look brighter and more healthy overall.
And the great thing is that it's not like overly stripping. It doesn't leave it dry, because I also have had experiences with the benzoyl peroxide where it was just too much, even at like a 2%. And then this one, I think we recommended it to so many people on our team as well, and it's just been a lifesaver. So can you explain like what 9% salicylic acid is? Because it's also delivered through this kind of like oily substance, which helps to keep it from drying out, which is so great for a spot treatment.
Yeah, with the BHA 9, like you said, it's meant to be used as a spot treatment, and it is really for stubborn imperfections of all kinds. For me, like, I will not travel without it, because never fails, before I have a big public speaking thing, I will get this huge unicorn horn of a zit. It's always gonna happen.
It always happens at those times.
It's the worst. So that is like my emergency, secret weapon that I always have with me. You just spot treat that area, but it can be used for so many other things. If you have a discoloration, that you've tried all these skin brightening and skin lightening types of ingredients and those haven't worked for you, try a BHA 9, because by exfoliating those layers of skin, you're getting basically rid of that built up layer that's kind of helping this discoloration stay on the surface, and it might just help speed up the fading for you by doing a little bit of that.
Azelaic acid only really started to like come into the conversation very recently, I feel. How would you use this differently to BHA, or like when are they best for?
I love that question. So you don't pick one over the other. You should really be using them both for the best results. So the BHA is going to be what's exfoliating the pore, again, unclogging the gunk that's built up in there, versus the azelaic acid would be what you use after the exfoliant. The azelaic acid has anti-inflammatory properties. It does also have some antibacterial properties as well. And so you could think of the azelaic acid as like the soothing treatment that goes on after. That's another one where it's really good for most everyone. There's a lot of research behind it for rosacea prone skin, versus the exfoliant as kind of like that preventative step from the get-go.
So this one's from Katie. So she wants to try out some new products by Paula's Choice, and she's heard so many great things about them. What would you recommend in general for someone in their early 20s with combo skin, specifically for dry patches and for acne scars?
One of the things we recently did is we came out with a defense line, and it's for specifically with this skin type where they don't exactly know where to start. They just want an even keeled texture that'll kind of work for any skin type, and it's gonna address a lot of needs. So within that defense line, there's a great cleanser, there's a great SPF that happens to be one of my favorite that's gonna help with her dry patches. I love using this under the eye area because it has a little bit of a glow to it, so it adds some luminosity. But it's kind of just that perfect, middle of the road texture that's gonna work for a lot of people in her combination skin.
Bro, that defense line is like one of your favorite, the pore purifier.
It's my favorite, the pore purifier. Yeah, as we're on acne and pores, I stopped using chemical exfoliants for a bit because I think I just went overboard when I was a little early, like 2 or 3 years ago. But the pore purifier and the BHA is something that's like my holy grail. It's just every day, and then that along with the new allergy defense to like pair it together, it's like double synergy.
Yeah, our defense line has been a big hit. People love it.
And another question, my skin is dry but gets clogged up pretty easily as well. Would you recommend some recommendations for this particular issue?
So one of the things that we do is with our BHA, we don't just make the liquid that everybody knows us for. We also have BHA gels, we have a BHA lotion, we have BHA serums. So when your skin is dry, but you still need something to unclog the pores, then either the BHA lotion or the BHA serum, which would be the 4% BHA, are gonna be great textures to try for your skin. Niacinamide can also help. It's not going to unclog the pores like the BHA would, because of the way that niacinamide communicates with the cells and basically tells that cell how to behave before it became enlarged, before it became clogged and stretched, and before sun damage took over. It's basically normalizing that pore again, so everything everything can flow out freely as it should instead of getting trapped and congested. So concentrated niacinamide is really great for that.
So with BHA and niacinamide, how would you use both of them in a routine? Because we get this question a good amount.
So start with the BHA first. So again, always going back to cleanse, tone, exfoliate, and then the niacinamide can go on next. But we also like to tell people, if you get mixed up on the order of things, again, stick to the cleanse, tone, exfoliate, but from there go from thinnest to thickest texture. So, you know, our boosters are these really lightweight fluid textures. So almost always they're going to be able to go on right after your exfoliant. Then maybe you have a little bit more substantial of a serum, and then maybe you top it off with a moisturizer. So that would be kind of like the order that you go. But I will also say that you don't have to get super hung up on the order. These ingredients and these formulas are brilliant. They know where to go. They know how to penetrate through.
What would you say is the main cause of hyperpigmentation and dullness on our skin?
So sun damage, which is like the root of all evil when it comes to skin problems, is going to be the number one thing, you know, for developing dark spots, for just dulling skin overall. But there are also other things that come into play, hormonal factors, you know, when we're talking about melasma, which a lot of people call pregnancy mask, that can cause discolorations and hyperpigmentation. And then there's also that, you know, post-acne mark. There can be a lot of different things that affect it. I should say the one that's the trickiest to treat are those hereditary dark circles. That type of hyperpigmentation really falls outside of the realm of skincare.
So for things that we can control, what are some good ingredients to help with hyperpigmentation? For me specifically, it's like freckles. And I feel like when I was younger, even a few years ago, using things like chemical exfoliants will just gradually but very solidly lighten up my freckles. But now over time, it's just there. I don't feel like it's going anywhere.
In terms of like, you know, bigger dark spots, more concentrated dark spots, hydroquinone is still known as that gold standard ingredient, concentration of 2% that you can get over the counter. In terms of other ingredients, tranexamic acid has a lot of new research that's getting exciting in terms of what it can do for helping fade those discolorations. Niacinamide's well proven. Vitamin C is like a champion of brightening skin, but some hyperpigmentation is really stubborn, so you might need to tackle it with a combination of ingredients. When you were talking about, you know, exfoliating and how that affected your wrinkles, not wrinkles, how that affected your freckles.
All good.
Sorry. So when you were talking about exfoliation and, you know, seeing a little bit of results with your freckles, exfoliation, again, getting back to that point of just exfoliating off that dead, dull layer can help speed up the fading to a certain degree, but you're really going to want to hit it with those more concentrated brightening ingredients. There are also extracts like arbutin and licorice, things of that nature that can help as well.
And I guess for people who are starting out or who may not be as familiar with these ingredients or which ones to use first, is there something that you recommend as a kind of like a gateway or like a first ingredient / product they should try?
I mean, vitamin C is a heavy hitter, but I think that's a really nice place to start because not only are you getting all these benefits for your skin tone, but it's a great antioxidant just to protect your skin in general. So it's going to have, you know, anti-aging effects. It's going to help with the brightness. It's going to help with the hyperpigmentation. So our C15 Super Booster makes it pretty darn easy because it's a liquid. You could layer it on or you could mix it in with your moisturizer or your serum. I think that's like the perfect gateway for somebody who just doesn't know exactly where to start.
And it's also formulated in a very beautiful way with vitamin E and ferulic acid.
The vitamin E and ferulic acid is important because vitamin C, as great of an ingredient as it is, it's also an ingredient that's prone to breaking down. So it needs these other great antioxidants to help stabilize it. They also just help with the overall effects. But I do like to tell people that when it comes to vitamin C serums or any water-based vitamin C product, you want to be using it up fairly quickly. So on the back of your products, there's this little jar icon. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the jar icon with that number and the letter M basically means once you open that product up, you have that many months to use it before it's going ineffective. And for vitamin C products, quite often it's like a 3-month span. So a lot of people, you know, if they buy a really expensive vitamin C, they want to use it just, you know, minimally so that that it really, they can, go the distance with it. They can use it for a long time, but it's gonna benefit your skin more to use it up consistently before the product goes bad. And you'll know if it's going bad and oxidizing, if it goes from maybe just like a slight yellowish tinge or maybe even like a tiny light orange tinge. But once you get into that deeper orange or that rust brown color, you know it's oxidizing, which means you're really not getting the benefits anymore.
Can you just share a little bit about, like, if people are wondering if they're fanatics of vitamin C as an ingredient, what's the difference between the C15 and the C25 booster, which is also a very different consistency, and maybe how you'll use it differently?
The biggest difference is that the C15 is a 15% concentration. It's got that more liquidy, you would use it all over type of formula, versus the C25 is 25%, so a higher concentration. It's a waterless formula, so it actually does have a longer usage time, but you would treat that one more as a spot treatment instead of applying it all over. And the texture, sometimes I call it a spackle. It's much more elegant than that, but it has this nice tenacity to it. It's gonna stay where you apply it.
Yeah, it's like a velvety mousse.
It is like velvet.
It's so luxurious.
There's one more question from Anna Mahini. Annie.
Love these names.
Yes. Anyway, how long should you use a product before you can see results? When do you decide something is a dud and move on, confident that you've given it a real shot? So I think this is especially so for hyperpigmentation, because you can't, I mean, in skincare in general, right? Like, you can't use a product for a day or a week and be like, it works or it doesn't work, because you really do need to give it a fighting chance. But how long would you say that timing or like that window should be?
I love this question because a lot of people do give up too soon, and that's unfortunate because they're not going to see the results that they could have if they just stuck it out a little longer. So in terms of the hyperpigmentation that you were referring to, 6 to 8 weeks is really what it takes to see a major difference. And during that amount of time, you also need to make sure that you're protecting your skin from the sun, because anything you're doing to undo those discolorations is going to be made worse by sun damage, by sun exposure. In terms of other results for other types of treatments, for acne, some people see results really quickly. Other people need to give it more time. Their skin also might be going through like hormonal change. If you're gearing up for your period and you start these new anti-acne products and you feel like they don't work after a week, well, it might just be that you were breaking out more because of your hormonal issues anyway. So give, anti-acne treatments at least 4 weeks, I say. In terms of anti-aging and wrinkles and that sort of thing, first, I like to tell people, set realistic expectations. No cream, no product is going to magically, get rid of wrinkles totally.
Why not?
You can try Botox for that. I know, people hate hearing that too, but realistically, you need to think about anti-aging products from, softening the appearance of these signs of aging that you're trying to deal with, but they're not necessarily gonna get rid of them completely. So for anti-aging, try to give it, 4 to 6 weeks if you can, to stick it out and see what it's doing for your skin.
And I think this is a great place to transition into anti-aging and prevention. So the main causes we mentioned a little earlier could be sun damage, are the main culprits when it comes to causes of aging on our skin.
Yep, sun damage is the number one factor, but moving on from that, there are so many other things. Facial movements, how expressive you are, how much you rub and tug at skin, because that's gonna break down elastin, that's gonna cause more wrinkles. There's lifestyle factors. Do you smoke? How inflammatory is your diet? How much is your alcohol intake? All of those things do add up to, causing wrinkles and that sort of thing. And then also the products that you use. If you're using things that are really stripping your skin, and then another really big one is the environmental stressors, the air pollution, things like airborne particulate matter. Some people you'll see walking around and they swear that all they've done is washed their face with a bar soap for their entire life and they have this beautiful skin. Wow, they're blessed with great genetics. But for the rest of us, there's all these other things that are attacking our skin and just are gonna add up to those signs of aging over the long haul.
Can you share some tips for anti-aging for drier skin types and then anti-aging approach for oily skin types, because it's a little different, right, in what they should be looking for?
For somebody, say, who has the oily skin and they're trying to address the signs of aging, again, picking the textures like fluids, liquids, lightweight serums is going to be a good idea. And in terms of a really good key anti-aging ingredient for that skin type, niacinamide is one of my favorites. Not only does it have anti-wrinkle properties, but it also helps with those pores that have become stretched, the pores that have started to sag and cause what we call that orange peel texture. For drier skin types, you get to bathe yourselves in those really rich, decadent, creamy formulas. We were talking about the Omega Moisturizer. I love the texture of that Omega Moisturizer.
It is beautiful.
Oh, it's so beautiful. The Omegas not only help from an anti-aging perspective, but from a hydration perspective. There's also, ingredients like ceramides that are beautiful for dry skin. They just help your skin maintain its moisture balance. They help skin be more supple. Peptides are also really, really great, whether you have dry skin or oily. That's just more of like one of these really great hero ingredients when it comes to anti-aging and firmness and elasticity.
And one question we get a lot, when should you start paying attention to anti-aging? And I guess the question I want to ask first is, when is a good time to start using retinol?
Okay, so our joke around the office is that from the day you're born, you're aging. So really, quite honestly, it is never too early, especially if you think of it like your diet. Like, you wouldn't wait until you're 40 to start eating broccoli or other nutritious foods, right? Well, the same goes for your skin. I tell people, basically, once you're making your own paycheck and you're not relying on mom and dad for your money, start buying your own anti-aging products. For a lot of us, that's in our 20s, and that's gonna help keep your skin, just looking good and feeling good for as long as possible. But the one thing that everybody could be doing far beyond that, from the time that you're 6 months old, you can be wearing sunscreen. And that's the cheapest anti-ager. It's the most important anti-ager. Everything else that you do is gonna become undone by sun damage if you're not protecting it. So just sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. I know it's a boring answer, but it's so important.
Yeah, there's a question about the day and night routines from Megan Aurora. How long should I keep using the same product in a routine before switching to new products?
I'm assuming the notion here is that your skin adapts to certain ingredients and therefore you need to switch your products out. It doesn't work that way. Again, I like to bring it back to the healthy, nutritious food analogy that, if a good ingredient is good for you to eat when you're, 12 years old, it's good for you later on in life too. You're still getting those great nutrients. You're still, in terms of skincare, you're still giving it the good ingredients it needs. It's not adapting and making those ingredients less effective over time. Some people do get tripped up on this because they stop seeing as dramatic of results as they did in the beginning.
Yeah, like the results plateau.
The results plateau, but that makes sense because if you started out with, whatever skin concern you're trying,
it's working.
Of course, you're going to see more dramatic results in the beginning because you have a higher benchmark to come down from. But you still need to be using those great formulas, those great ingredients to maintain your results.
And that concludes basically our episode with Desiree and Paula's Choice, which we have been waiting for forever to finally sit down and chat with you all together because your products are amazing, the way that you guys explain ingredients are amazing, and I just want to take this time to share with people that you guys have like a full-on dictionary that people can refer to if they are looking for ingredients. And one thing that we always like to ask our guests is what beauty within means to you.
Ooh, okay. I love this question. I have been reflecting a lot about this, especially since becoming a mother, because I want my daughters to feel beautiful and confident in their own skin, no matter what. But I also, really want them to know that beauty comes from other things like kindness and compassion and standing up for other people. And I've had to really also be careful about the way I talk about my own, body image and my looks. I don't use the self-deprecating humor that I used to about my looks. I really try to build up that positivity. So I think beauty is a very complex topic to talk about. When I give my daughters compliments, and I say how beautiful they are, I like to sandwich it in between, how smart they are and how kind they are and how uniquely quirky, awesome, funny they are.
Aww.
So beauty comes really from all these different aspects of our lives. Some of it, is external, some of it is internal, but I think the most important part is the within, the internal.
We love
this.
That's
so beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Desiree, for joining us. I'm sure our audience is like writing in their little notebooks as they normally do, like all the tips and facts and tricks that you've shared with us, and hopefully we can do this sometime soon again.
Yes.
And if you have any burning questions, please leave them down below and we'll try to do this again sometime in the near future.
Yeah. But also, I just want to highlight like Paula's Choice IG, like their Instagram, you're constantly doing stories answering people's questions about everything that we mentioned in this video. So that is a great resource to go to.
Yes. So our Instagram is just at Paula's Choice, and we are continually, like you said, doing Instagram stories, educational pieces. We have this really fun thing we call Formula Fridays, where we get into the nitty-gritty of details of ingredients. Pretty much every day we've got some solid research-backed content for you. So check us out.
And now that everyone has more time to spend learning about themselves, but also everything they're putting on, it's perfect. So thank you again so much, and we'll all talk soon. Leave your questions below, and thank you all for watching. Bye.